Good morning. Welcome to FICS Chat again. Today we are going to continue our discussion on the chapter on methodology. Okay? It's a chapter on methodology, so we're going to talk about writing the methodology. But here, like last time, today our topic is survey research designs. Last time we talked about quantitative and qualitative research designs. Today we're going to talk about survey research designs. Now, what's a survey? Well, surveys enable you to study naturally occurring phenomena in their natural setting. You are not going to interfere with anything that's going on in the location, in the locale. You're just going to observe. Alright, there are two types of survey designs. First, there's what we call cross-sectional survey, and second, there is what we refer to as longitudinal surveys. First, what do we mean by cross-sectional survey? Well, you collect data at one point in time, maybe from more than one sample group, but representing the same population. That's why we call it cross-sectional, because one is going to be one section, second section, third section, fourth section. In other words, you are subdividing the area into various sections. So you get one sample group per section. So cross-sectional, one flow, one data collection time, you get the information from the entire population. The longitudinal survey research design, sometimes this is also called time series, all right? Time series study. You collect data over time, usually along time periods, okay? There is one way of observing, this is one way of observing changing behavioral patterns over time. There are three longitudinal designs. One is what we call trend study. You describe the variables as they change over time. Okay? That is trend. Usually they call it trend analysis. Right? Then the second one is what we call cohort study. You collect data over time from the same population, maybe different sample groups, but on the same population. Another way of doing cohort study is this. Suppose you want to study the behavioral pattern change of the population. What you can do now is, all right, this year we are going to do a survey of 250 members from the population, all of them 25 years old. Okay. Then 5 years down the line, you are going to survey another group of 250 individuals, but with ages 30. Okay? So there is that sort of changing in number of years, but maybe changing in terms of sample characteristics, sample individuals, but they are still going to represent the same population. So that is a cohort study. Now a third type here is what we call panel study. You collect data from different sample groups from the same population and then compare your results. So panel, one-time collection of data, you're going to use different panels from the same population. Okay. Now, that is what comprises longitudinal studies. All right? Trend analysis, cohort studies, and then panel studies. Okay. Now, we have another survey research design. It is called contextual studies. You collect data about an individual, about a person's particular environment, and then you use this information to describe that individual. You are contextualizing the research participant. Then another kind of survey design is what those in the social sciences, particularly economics, call sociology rather. They call them sociometric studies. So what we do here is that we ask individuals close to a particular person, could you name the top 5 individuals who are closest to this particular person? Then you ask so many people that question. What you come up with is a network we call the sociometric network. This will indicate who is the most popular to that individual. Okay. Now, in the survey designs, we have 3 particular ethical issues. Okay. We are very concerned about this, and so that is the reason why we always provide means of neutralizing these issues. First one is the concept of voluntary participation. Each participant in the survey must volunteer to participate. You cannot force an individual to become part of a survey study. Okay? That participant has to volunteer. That is the first issue, voluntary participation. The second issue is there should be no harm that will happen to the respondent, especially if he is a volunteer in the study. No harm to the respondent, especially if he has volunteered to participate. Okay. And the third is what we always refer to as anonymity and confidentiality. That any participant in the survey must be anonymous. He must not be known. He should not be identifiable from the kind of responses that he makes. And another thing, anonymity and confidentiality are different things, but they normally come together. Confidentiality refers to the condition where the respondent should not worry about others knowing his responses to specific questions. Okay? Right. Now, other research designs that we are always happy to deal with, especially in the field of communication, social sciences. One is the concept of participant observation. A particular individual, the researcher, becomes a participant observer if he is exposed on a prolonged and intensive engagement between himself as the researcher and the respondent as the researchee. So the researcher becomes part of the group of people that are being researched. Participant observation. You are a participant in the set of activities that you are observing. Okay? There are questions, there are problems there, but you can deal with them, especially if you're going to use this methodology. Another methodology is what we refer to, especially in communication, as content analysis. This is a methodology to enable one to make inferences based on use of language. This is particularly useful in making references, for example, based on speeches or public pronouncements. You look at the communication trends in terms of use of words, use of phrases, and use of expressions. Another design is usually employed to survey experts. This is what we call Delphi. Delphi is a method of structuring a group communication process so that the process is effective in allowing a group of individuals as a whole. In other words, you try to establish some kind of a consensus among the research respondents who are experts in their areas. For example, you want to establish the environmental trends 10 years down the line. Okay, survey experts who are into environmental studies and environmental management problems. And you can ask each of these individuals, okay, I need only 50 of these individuals, and these 50 will give me the trends in environment 10 years hence. So what happens is this: you identify those experts, then you frame a questionnaire, show it to each of these experts, and you will ask them, okay, kindly look at this list of environmental problems that may exist 10 years down the line, and see if you agree or do not agree with this categorization, and then please rank according to your evaluation. So they will rank those ones. So 5 issues. They rank the 5 issues. Then after that, you collect the survey, and then recategorize the issues and send them back to the participants. And ask them, okay, here's the result of a combination of the survey last time. It has changed in terms of rankings. Do you agree or don't you agree with these rankings? If you don't agree, please re-rank them and send them back again. So you do this until you establish some kind of a consensus. But usually you're able to establish some kind of a consensus after 5 rounds, okay? And even less, you do that. That is the Delphi technique. And then here is another one, problematic analysis. Problematic analysis is something that we also use in management. In management, it is called problem structure analysis. We are looking for problems, not solutions. This operates on the presumption that the structures involved are established structures based on systems theory. Okay, so this is especially useful when you are trying to do some management analysis of established communication systems. All right, we still have other things here, but these are most of the other procedures or strategies, methods, designs that we use. Remember that what we have done is discussed different designs under methodology. We are still into research designs. We are not done yet. We still need another subtitle or third group of research designs. The first one, we talked about quantitative and qualitative research designs. Today, we discussed survey research designs. Next episode, we will talk about sampling. It's not the research design anymore, but we will talk about sampling. It's still part of methodology. Okay, in the second half of our program, we are now into our Q&A portion. And we'd like to deal with some questions we have received after our discussions on methodology focusing on research design and also focusing on both the quantitative and qualitative designs. From Wilmer Benito, he has this question: how causal comparative differs from quasi-experimental? Mr. Benito, I assume that you're referring to the research design on quantitative research and qualitative research. Now, the quantitative research design has both pre-test and post-test portions. This is the closest to what you call causal comparative design. Now, I am not familiar with what you call causal comparative designs. I don't know what you mean by that, but it's closest similar to what I have discussed before, and that is the pre-test, post-test design. Okay? Now, the quasi-experimental design provides making observations prior to introducing an experimental treatment and then doing another set of observations after introducing an experimental treatment. Then, of course, you compare the results between the pre-treatment observations and the post-treatment observations. Mr. Benito also asks, what are the apps used in analyzing quantitative and qualitative data? You seem to be familiar with all these things. The thing is, I do not use computer apps quite frequently because I prefer, since I deal with not too large numbers, I prefer to do it the longhand way. Okay, very traditional, huh? I prefer to do it the longhand way, and because I do not like to throw all my data into the computer as the suggestion has been made before. I'd like to see specifics as I proceed in analyzing my data. Now it's nice to put this into the computer. Yes, it's fast, neat, and actually easy to understand. But for me, traditionally, I've always preferred to do it the longhand way. Pampahirap ng pagpapahirap sa sarili. But I prefer it that way. So I think insofar as this issue is concerned, your thesis advisor will be your thesis advisor together with your school statistician would be in a better position to advise you on this matter. I cannot help you much there. To some degree I would, but I do not like to start a discussion on something that might blow up into a larger thing that we cannot discuss within the ambit of our program. Now, Mr. Benito has another question. How do you formulate a good conclusion and recommendations? You know what? We still have to discuss this matter. So I suggest that you listen to my discussion first before I respond to your question, okay? Now, another set of questions come from Maria Teresa de Panes. What are some methodologies appropriate to the pandemic? Looks like you intend to do some study regarding the pandemic. Well, let me tell you, there are two designs that could be used in any research about the pandemic. You may use both quasi-experimental designs. One is the uninterrupted time series design, and the other one is the regression discontinuity design. If you want to know more about this, kindly listen to our discussions on this research design coming up, I suppose, next time. Questions also again from Mr. Benito. What are the standards in having samples for quantitative and qualitative research? You know what? I don't know if there are any standards. All I know is that this is the call of the researcher. If you're the researcher, you decide the size of the size of your sample, or there are ways of getting the size of sample using standard formula. If you are dealing with large figures, okay, there are formula for determining the size of sample. But in qualitative research, most of the time you really do not use large sample sizes, because you predetermine what kind of samples you may have. And in qualitative research, there are four. Okay, there are four designs, research designs. We have, but in all of these research designs, we use most of the time case studies. All right. And when you have case studies, you can come up with accurate information in small cases, small numbers of respondents. Another set of questions from Mr. Benito. how can we determine that the participants are fitted for the study? Like I said earlier, you are the researcher, you determine who your respondents are. Okay? That's the call of the researcher. How can the instrument become reliable and valid? Good question. Okay? That is a good question. This is the main reason why you have to do, or why we need to do pre-test of our research instruments. And usually we do pre-tests for self-administered questionnaire or interview schedules. And usually when we look at the results of the pre-tests, we would be able to determine whether or not our research instrument is reliable and valid. Now, what I would like to say is that do not collect your data using research instruments that have not been pre-tested. Always pre-test them. Okay? Now, at this point, I would like to clarify certain things regarding what we are doing in this program. At the UPOU, we do not have any specific course on writing the thesis or the dissertation. I do not know if there are specific courses in other universities, but I am not aware of those ones. Now, we do expect, however, that you would have working knowledge of how to write your thesis and dissertations. Those of you who are into the doctoral programs at the UPOU now must have experience writing your master's thesis. Okay? And those of you who are taking master's degrees now at the UPOU must have experience writing your bachelor's thesis if you had those requirements. We do here at the UPOU, we do expect that you have a working knowledge of how to write thesis or dissertations that you have learned before from your graduate studies, preliminary graduate studies, or from your research advisors. But if you do not have those ones, please do not expect any lectures in this program, because one, I already have said that I am not going to give any lectures, but just additional information that you may benefit from. Okay? Because my assumption is that you have a working knowledge of how to write your thesis, but you need additional information based probably on somebody else's experiences, so that you will have an idea of what they do in writing their thesis or dissertations. This is the main reason why we call this FICS chat as common or general practices in thesis writing. Okay? There's also common practices in thesis writing. We discuss those ones here as a contribution or as an additional information for you, based on what you already have known before this series. Okay, now we have done that. I hope that you learned something from the Q&As. Next time we will talk about additional information, additional questions regarding our discussions on FICS chat. So until then, thank you very much.